Good evening, everyone. I know that it's Monday, and I know that we're in the midst of getting our work week together, but we are actually talking about a first alert weather day that is in place for tomorrow. And we'll start to see some of that rain move in as we head through the next couple of hours. So, this is reasons for you all to be at least weather aware as we head through the next day. There we go. Got my logos together. So, good evening to you at home that are joining us using the ANF Plus app, but also good evening to everyone who's joining us on YouTube. We're going to dial through the forecast, and there's a lot to talk about. Not just the next 24 hours, but the next 7 days are definitely going to be a bit of a roller coaster. We have multiple systems that are going to move through. So, we're going to go ahead and dial into those systems, get you prepared so that you can get everything that you need in place over the course of the next couple of days. Let's start with tomorrow. Tuesday has been dedicated a first alert weather day. We actually elevated this on Friday. This was a system we had been watching for several days. We first alerted you to this early last week, and then we elevated that to a first alert weather day. And just for everyone that's joining us, that maybe, I get it. It's a fluid market. You're dipping out in and out of stations. We have a first alert in place 4 days that we think are going to be nuisance. So if we issue a first alert for rain or for fog or for a breezy wind or for a temperature change, that's something that is going to be annoying to you. It's going to be a nuisance. But whenever we actually start talking about a first alert weather day, this is a day that we actually expect to be very impactful, borderline dangerous sometimes. And with this system that we're tracking that's going to be moving in over the next few hours, already starting to see some sprinkles in some areas, this is going to be a weather system that is going to be impactful because of the timing and because of the energy that it is going to bring with it. So let's dial into that, starting with what we're tracking right now on First Alert satellite and radar. Very large system. You can see snow in portions of Minnesota, Illinois, stretching into the Texas Panhandle. But look at all of that electricity with these thunderstorms that are along this boundary that's moving through the South and the Mid-South. A very aggressive line of showers and storms going to be pushing into the area over the course of the next few hours. And once we zoom in, we can already see that cloud cover thickening up in our region and some spotty showers already trickling down into the southernmost part of our viewing area. So that's you out in Troup County, Meriwether County, Upson County, getting a little bit of light rain in Coweta and Heard counties, and some sprinkles are trying to make their way into the metro as well. So a spotty sprinkle or two already out there right now, and that's only going to increase in coverage and intensity as we head through the overnight hours. I do want to point your attention to the winds as well, because the winds will be a big part of our story out ahead of this system and as these showers and storms are rolling through. We've been tracking 25 plus miles per hour wind gusts for the last couple of hours across a large chunk of metro Atlanta, and that has notched up a few miles per hour over the course of the last I'd say last 2 or 3 hours. Already tracking a 32 miles per hour wind gust here in Atlanta and upper 20s in the North Georgia mountains. So a very breezy evening unfolding. A wind advisory went into effect at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, and that goes through the night and into the day tomorrow, not set to expire until 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. But you can see that area that's highlighted in orange. You're at an elevated risk for wind. We actually expect those wind gusts to be even higher than that. We're talking the potential for up to 50 miles per hour wind gusts in Fannin, in Gilmer County, as well as Dawson County, Lumpkin County, Towns, Union, and White County. So definitely something that we're going to be watching through the night and into the day tomorrow. But the reason that you all probably joined us was because you wanted to see when that rain was going to move in. I'm watching the YouTube chat. I see a lot of you guys are joining us there, and I'll make sure that I answer all of your questions. I do want to get you through this evening, and I want to make sure that I point out the fact that the winds are going to remain gusty through the overnight. That's why that wind advisory is in place now and does not stop until tomorrow evening. 30 to 40 miles per hour gusts going to be possible on and off throughout the overnight hours. Here's a look at the timeline for that rain. If you're not seeing it now, you will start to see it by 10, 11 o'clock. You can see that first alert futurecast showing scattered rain across the bulk of the region, and it's going to become more moderate the closer we get to about 10 to 11 o'clock. So expect to need the umbrella. If you're heading out of the house working third shift, it's going to be on the messy side. That first alert weather day goes into effect in the early morning hours because it is going to come down. Be prepared to hear it on your roof, to hear it on raining on your cars, outside, all around. Rumbles of thunder will be possible as well, especially the further south you are. It is going to be a very, very messy morning. And if you think that getting out of the door at 7 o'clock tomorrow is going to be easy, it will not. Atlanta traffic already ridiculous. And this is from somebody who commutes at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I have no idea what the morning commute looks like because I've never been on the roads, but I look back at our newscast and I see the traffic delays. This will be a traffic delay because these downpours will be coming down heavy. At times, we could see rainfall rates up to 1.5 inches an hour. So this is going to slow things down. The water will coalesce on the sides of the roads, and that's our primary concern with this event. It will be the rain, but also the rain will lead to issues with trees because you have all of this rain sogging the grounds, gusty winds at the same time. This could lead to downed trees and power lines, which also could literally exacerbate the morning commute. So I'm just preparing everybody. We're not expecting this to be Armageddon or anything like that, but we know what this type of weather combination will do to our area, and it's going to slow things down in the morning. It's going to be very, very slow. So be prepared. By around 1 o'clock, we do expect the bulk of this system to be pushing to the east. Folks that are in places like Chattooga, Floyd counties, we expect you to dry out first. Paulding, Cobb County. Meanwhile, the easternmost part of our viewing area will still be dealing with some lingering showers, but we expect by 3 o'clock for everybody to be dry and for the bulk of the day to remain on the drier side. There is a low-end chance for some precip wrapping around as we head into the late night Tuesday. We'll talk about that coming up in just a few minutes. Let's dive deeper into this rain because I've been mentioning the rain risk, and these rainfall totals will be high. Here's a look at our rain forecast, and we're talking about 2 to 4 inches of widespread rain with some isolated locations picking up slightly higher. So if you know that you live in a low-lying area, drainage issues, this will be something that you'll want to keep an eye on throughout the day. The National Weather Service has already issued a flood watch for all of our viewers. So if you can hear my voice on any newscast on streaming online, then you are in the area where there is a flood watch that is active until 7 o'clock. Starts at midnight tonight until 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. And normally whenever we talk about flood watches, depending on the systems, some of them pose the risk for what we call an aerial flood, which means that creeks, streams, rivers, those low-lying areas could be impacted. And then also we talk about flash flooding. This system is going to be unique as it's going to propose both of those as a risk because we do expect runoff to be an issue. So these creeks and streams that normally have multiple tributaries, that could see minor flood stage reached in some of those rivers, but also with rainfall rates getting upwards of 1.5 inches in some places, could get up to 2.5 inches in heavier downpours. That's going to give that potential for some flash flooding. I don't know about y'all. Normally whenever it rains a lot, on my drive to work, it's the off-ramp of the connector right here at 14th Street that there's always water there. So you know these trouble spots in your normal morning commute. If it's normally a trouble spot, it will be a trouble spot tomorrow. So be prepared. If you can avoid those normal trouble areas, that's going to be the route that you want to take because it's just going to be a mess out there on those roadways, hence that first alert weather day status. The Storm Prediction Center actually has a large chunk of the metro under a level 1 out of 5 risk for strong storms, with that risk increasing the further south you go. So damaging winds are going to be possible. You know about the flooding potential as well. And there's also going to be some rotation out there. We don't normally dive into a whole lot of the overly scientific stuff for you guys because you just want to know what you need to know to get out the door, right? But there's going to be some elevated wind shear and some very gusty winds aloft. And we believe that because of those two things, we could get some rotating thunderstorms. That greater chance for that will be south and east. So level 2 out of 5 risk of strong storms exists for folks that are in Jasper, Putnam counties, Pike, Lamar counties, as well as Upson County. But that level 1, Troup, Meriwether, and I know we were just down there in Troup and Meriwether counties, as well as Spalding County, talking to folks because Friday is the 1-year anniversary of the tornado outbreak that brought all of those tornadoes that rolled through that area. We were talking to folks and stuff like that, but also telling them, hey, we have a couple of rounds of severe weather possible this week, so you'll want to stay dialed in. And that level 1 risk exists for those communities, so definitely going to be watching that as we go through the day, or especially the night and the morning tomorrow. I mentioned that low-end risk for a tornado, and here's going to be the best potential. Anywhere that's shaded here in that green color, that lighter green, you're going to have about a 2% chance of a tornado risk. That's not a high risk, but it's a non-zero risk. And if there's the potential for some rotation in your neighborhood, I think you want to know about it. So we're going to talk about it. And that's going to include folks that are in Jasper, Putnam counties, as well as Pike, Lamar County, and Upson, southern portion of Meriwether. But I'd be on alert in Troup County as well, because you're going to be very close to that axis, depending on exactly where that low tracks. So we're going to be watching that as one of the lower end risks, but a risk that exists nonetheless. And then on the backside of that, cooler air is going to start to filter in, and that's going to allow for the potential for some frozen precip in the mountains. Now, the good news here is that we don't expect the frozen precip to really accumulate much in the mountains, but it's going to be there. There's going to be cold air. There's going to be a little bit of moisture. We do expect a few streamers on the back end, so don't be surprised if you see some snowflakes in places like Blairsville, Blue Ridge, Dawsonville, out in Dahlonega. That's going to be a potential as that system starts to pull away, that we could get some wraparound moisture and get some frozen precip. That risk will end as we head into the early morning hours. And then we're just going to be dealing with a cold day on tap for your Wednesday. So walking out of the door after a soggy drive to work on Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning is going to be freezing. So we're going to go from the rain jackets to the thick jackets, and we're going to be doing remote start. Cold all day on Wednesday, getting into the low 40s by lunchtime and not getting out of the 40s through the afternoon. So I expect us to top out somewhere near the mid to upper 40s through the afternoon. By the way, thank you so much, Jason. It'll be a clearer day, so that's the good news in the forecast. Wednesday's looking pretty sunny, but it's not going to do a whole lot for our temperatures. And then this map is a little bit confusing because it actually just updated before we went on this stream. But the big takeaway here is that there is a 15% chance of severe weather for all of the areas that are essentially the Atlanta metro and points east and south. There's a 15% chance of severe storms on Friday. So while we're first alert weather day tomorrow, we're also keeping you posted to what's coming down the pipeline, because you still have to make plans for Friday. Friday's looking a little messy right now with energy and with rain. So that's something that's coming down the pipeline for the second half of the forecast. Let you walk you through that. And it's looking like this Friday event is going to be not an overnight morning event, but a late morning, afternoon, evening event. So the rain's going to be later in the day, which means that instead of your morning commute being impacted, this is looking to impact your afternoon commute and probably your Friday evening plan. So a first alert to Friday's rain chances for the second half of the day. So you'll want to prepare for that. We will dry out as we head into the weekend, but there's going to be a north wind. So that means we're going to cool down again. So expect sunshine for your Saturday, but for it to be on the chilly side. The clouds are going to build back in as we head towards Sunday afternoon and the evening. And then another first alert for another system that's going to bring rain. Now, still several days away, so it's going to take some timing for us to get that timeline perfect for you, because this is day 7 in our forecast. But we are looking to it. The system is going to bring some rain. We'll talk about the thunderstorm potential the closer we get to that event. Normally within 5 days, we can kind of look and see, oh, hey, this is looking a little energetic. Right now, this is looking like a rain event, but this is reasons for you to stay tuned and stay dialed in as we head through the next couple of days. So big picture, 7-day forecast is looking like there's a lot going on. So this is one of those weeks. I know that a lot of times when it comes to news, we kind of dip in, dump out. We check, we watch the local news once or twice a week. This is something you're going to do maybe 3 or 4 times this week, as we're going to continue to fine tune this forecast. If Friday continues to look aggressive, or if it looks more aggressive tomorrow, we may have to elevate Friday to a first alert weather day. So you'll know about that. We won't do that unless we feel like there's going to be an impact to you. For now, we know it's going to be a nuisance. So that's why it's a first alert versus tomorrow's first alert weather day, which we know is going to impact you, and it's going to be a mess on those roadways. A lot of folks on YouTube, if you guys have any more questions, let me know. But for now, I just want to make sure you all get the gist of what we're talking about as far as your forecast for tomorrow, which is going to be a soggy, wet, heavy downpours, potential for some isolated flooding, as this rain could come down very fast. It's going to cause a lot of mess for that morning drive. That's the big takeaway. I know a lot of schools, I'm going to get this information. We've been giving it to you throughout the day, because a lot of schools have been delaying their classes tomorrow. A lot of schools have, or at least one school in particular, has actually made it a remote learning day. We have a list of those schools and those start times on our website at atlantanewsfirst.com. I'm sorry I didn't get that information for you ahead of time, but if you go to atlantanewsfirst.com, you can get that. Jason is asking, will there be any flooding? There's going to be the potential for that. So forecasting flooding and where it's going to happen is not something anybody can do. But what we can do is we can determine, look at the system that's moving in and how much precipitable water it has in the column of air, which means that, okay, this system could squeeze out this much rain. And that's how we look at it. Okay, if it has this much water in the column of air over the course of X amount of miles, we could potentially see the potential for some flooding. So we could see those rainfall rates exceed 1.5 inches an hour, maybe 2.5 inches an hour, and we can highlight that area that looks most likely to see that occur. And that's what we've done with our flood watch, and that's a large chunk of North Georgia. I'll try to go back, and you'll have to forgive me. Actually, you know what? I'll do this so that it's not on screen. I'll cut to me so that you can't see me rewinding my scene, because I am Tyler. Will there be any flooding? Tyler says he doesn't know. There will be flooding. Just telling you exactly where that is. You're going to have to tune in the morning. Our first alert weather team, 4 of our meteorologists, 4 out of the 7 of us will be here manning the scenes, letting you know exactly where that is. Meanwhile, anchor Alan Devlin has just sent me a list of school closings. So while I'm backing up to show you those rainfall totals again, I will read you the schools that have issues with sessions tomorrow. Banks County schools are closed. Gordon County schools, they're operating on a 2-hour delay. Habersham County closed, so I think there's some updates here. Heard County is on a 2-hour delay. Jasper County schools are already closed. Lumpkin County schools are closed as well. Meriwether, folks out there, will be doing a remote learning day. And then we have 2 more counties, Rabun and Troup County schools, that are both closed. And then Union City has a 2-hour delay. So a lot of communities, what's going on, Tyler? A lot of communities are already preparing for this rain event. They know that it's going to make a mess of things. There's also the potential for some isolated severe storms. There's also the potential for some winds gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour. So a lot of the community, they're doing what they can to kind of get you and your families at least reduce your risk, reduce your impacts by keeping your kids home a little bit longer. Someone just asked in the chat, how do we get notifications about any warnings? The best way to get notifications is to have the Atlanta News First Alert Weather app on your phone. The First Alert Weather app will push out any warning watch where you are. If you are at home, if you're at work, even if you decide to go to Florida for the weekend and there's some severe thunderstorms or any kind of weather impacts to you where you are, as long as you have your location turned on, we will send you any warnings inside of your geolocation. So that's going to be the best way to get any of that. Of course, if there are any elevated warnings, we're going to be cutting into programming on our newscast, and we're going to also be putting those updates to you on atlantanewsfirst.com. So if you're at work and you just want to look online, Atlanta News First. If you're lazy like me, you want it to your phone, the First Alert Weather app, just Google First Alert Weather app in Google Play Store, Apple Store, and we'll get you on our list. We don't mind alerting you whenever there's storms coming around. We have a team of 7 meteorologists. We all update that. I know that you all have iPhones and all that stuff. If you Google how accurate are your iPhone forecasts, it's going to tell you that their accuracy is less than ours. We are Georgia's most accurate for a reason, so make sure you go ahead and get that app, and we will make sure that we keep you in the know. 7 of us updating the hour by hours where you live. It's just not going to be for Atlanta. If you are in Floyd County, if you're in Chattooga, if you are down in Troup County, Griffin, I just was in Griffin Friday. You're out there, I'm updating for you in your location. There's a different forecast for folks that are in side of the city of Atlanta and folks that are in Decatur. There's a different forecast out in Lawrenceville. We forecast for you, and that's going to be the best way for you to get all of that information. So I mentioned that I would go back to the rainfall because that's the biggie. There's also some people that are just joining us that I want to make sure that you are in the know for when this rain will be pushing into your area. And we're expecting rain to be widespread through the region by 11 o'clock tonight. You'll start to see that rain trickling and increasing through 10. So it's going to get wet out there very quickly. That First Alert Weather Day goes into effect very early in the morning because we expect heavier downpours to push in. It's going to be real messy. Really messy for folks that are getting out early in the morning. Whether your commute is at 6, 7, 8, 9, this rain will be around and it will be intense. The thing that we've been telling folks is just to go ahead and prepare. Add an additional 15 minutes to your normal commute times. Traffic is traffic, and it's always hectic and crazy. But whenever you add blinding rain to the equation, it's going to slow you down. So this is the reason for the first alert weather day. Anytime something impacts you, the potential for danger, because we know how it is when it rains, that's when we do first alert weather days. Very good question. No problem, Jason. Tanya, hopefully I said Tanya, but maybe it's Tanya, in the YouTube chat just asked, are we going to see lots of trees down and lots of power outages, and can we see a lot of power flashes? We do expect there to be some thunder, so we do expect there to be electricity as far as that. As far as down trees and power lines, we do expect that to be an issue. We don't expect it to be widespread, but with winds that are going to be gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour tonight, and then with the potential for that again tomorrow as that main line pushes through, especially with those strong to severe thunderstorms that are possible south and east of Atlanta, that potential will definitely exist, and that's part of the reason we're first alert weather daying you. I don't know about you all, but I'm a stickler for having my MacBook and my iPad charged. I want my devices charged. I need my juice. If the power goes out, I can, connect to my phone and stream whatever I need to stream to find out when it's coming back on, or if I need to, YouTube video watch, binge watch anything on Netflix, I can kind of keep myself entertained. So I would recommend, especially if you're in any of those areas that have that severe weather risk, just go ahead and have your devices charged tonight. Plug them up, and if you're in one of those areas where we could see some of those trees down, once again, not expecting this to be widespread, not expecting it to be, we're not expecting devastation to the nation here. We're not trying to scare you. We're just trying to inform you of the forecast. We're expecting heavy downpours. We know that there's going to be a messy commute. We know that there's going to be some ponding on the roadways at the very minimum. We do know that there are a lot of areas that any time that it rains heavy, we know that those areas, the water collects and it stays there. That's going to happen tomorrow. For me, part of my drive every day is getting off of the connector onto the 14th Street exit. Anytime that it rains for 10 minutes, there is water in 2 lanes. So our whole goal here is just to prepare you that anywhere that normally collects water, that's a definitive. That is going to definitely be an issue. That is going to be a wet spot tomorrow. But more than that, there's going to be more rain than we normally see in a morning drive. We don't normally see the potential for 2 to 4 inches of rain all over the area. So that's just an elevated risk, and we want to make sure that you guys are in the know. Tanya says, it looks like the main line in the morning is about 7. Is that the worst time? Yeah, but it's going to be bad even after that main line, because you got to remember, so you have the main line, you have winds that are gusting potentially 40 to 50, maybe isolated 60 miles per hour, but the winds are going to be gusty on the back end of that system as well. It's going to be about 25 to 35 miles per hour through the early afternoon, and the grounds are going to be saturated, waterlogged, all of that. So it doesn't take as strong of a wind to knock trees down. So we're going to be watching all day to see if there are any reports of trees down, power lines, just because with the grounds saturated from the morning rain and the gusty winds not dying off until tomorrow evening, that potential is going to exist. Now, I can't forecast where the power lines are going to fall, but I can tell you that the ingredients exist, and they're going to be there. So we just want to give you the heads up. We're going to be tracking that live for you here. We're going to actually have more people on staff tomorrow. All of our meteorologists are working at some point tomorrow. We're going to have 4 of the 7 of us working the morning. We're actually going to have meteorologist Courtney Jacobazi out in the streets. She's going to be in traffic tracker. We're going to have meteorologist Cutter Martin here looking for those reports and for those power outages so that we can give you guys areas to avoid. And then we're going to also have meteorologists, we got Rodney and Ella both here manning down the screen. So you'll catch both of them in the morning. So we got you covered. If you need to know what's going on when, just watch our newscast in the morning. Our team is we're on for a long time in the morning, so you shouldn't miss us. Flipping back between Atlanta News First. If we're not on Atlanta News First, we're on the CW, Peachtree TV. We're going to be on both of those all morning, letting you know what you need to know. If you see a down power line, what do? You call Georgia Power, you avoid it. Never, ever approach a power line. You don't know if it's live. There's no way to look at a power line to determine if it's down or if it's live. So the best thing for you to do is call Georgia Power and report it, Tanya. So we want you all to be safe. I want to go through the rainfall totals again because someone asked about the flooding potential. This is all pushing out of Atlanta by around 1 o'clock. We'll start to see most of the metro drying out. By 3 o'clock, all of our viewers will be dry. There's a low-end chance for a sprinkle or 2 in the late afternoon, but we don't expect most of you to pick up on that. here's that forecast outlook as far as the rain totals, and we do see a widespread range of 2 to 4 inches. If you look at our plots here, it's going to be a very wet day. The Stephen 810 is traveling from Savannah to Atlanta at 7 a.m. What does that look like? It looks like a hot mess. I would not recommend you traveling from Savannah to Atlanta at 7 a.m. because you're going to be driving in rain for almost all of your drive. It's also going to be very gusty, and the rain isn't just going to be rain, it's nuisance. It's going to be blinding at times. So if you could change that time a little bit, I'd recommend probably leaving out around noon because you'll still engage, you'll still interact with a little bit of rain, but the second half of your drive, at least half of your drive at that point will be drier. So I would highly recommend doing that. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. We're actually diving into this data more and more behind the scenes. Meteorologist Fred Campagna is hard at work in the First Alert Weather Center, and I will go and help him in a little bit. We're going to have some updated numbers for you on Peachtree TV, CW, at 10, and he's going to have that final look at the numbers on Atlanta News First at 11. Jason asked a very good question. He asked, is this going to help out the drought? And it will. We don't want it like this. Just to be clear, we don't want 2 to 4 inches of rain during the morning drive ever, even on a holiday. But once we can get past tomorrow and we all stay safe, we don't lose life, we don't lose property, we don't lose anything, then on Thursday we're going to get a new drought monitor, and this will severely help with our drought. Meteorologist Fred Campagna will actually be breaking that down. That actually comes down the pipeline Friday, late afternoon. We normally get that around 4:30, 4:50. And Meteorologist Fred Campagna normally always breaks down that drought monitor for you in our Live at 5 show. So check it out. We'll have that information for you too. And Tanya wants to see the snow on the backside. Let me get that for you real quick. I'm going to switch to me just so that I can back up. I'm actually at our breaking news desk, the Atlanta News First desk, not in the Weather Center, so I have to shimmy a couple of things around to get you what you need, but it's real easy. I just don't want you to see, what is it called? Not the baking of the eggs, but, I don't want you to see me mixing the dough. I want to show you the cookies. Let's get you there. I'm country, I apologize. No problem, Stephen. All righty, so let's get through these rain totals, and then we can get to, there's a flood watch that we talked about already. The potential for some minor flooding. These are going to be low-lying areas that are near creeks, rivers, streams that typically flood. Normally, a lot of times, this is kind of in the flood basin, so this doesn't normally impact a lot of people, but sometimes it does. So if normally whenever there's a river flooding, the Chattahoochee or anything like that, that water's going to rise a little bit because all of our runoff has to go somewhere. This is the risk, and then our next graphic should be the snow on the backside. And I'm going to be very frank, Tanya. I do think that this model is overdoing it a little bit, just based off of everything that I've seen, the way this system behaves. But there is going to be some stray flurries on the back end of this system as it's pulling out. And we'll start to see that as the cooler air is filtering in. And I have a different graphic that I normally show. And if you're watching tonight on 10, I'll show that graphic instead. Whenever I'm looking at precip that's moving in, especially this time of year, and the models try to bring it into a all snow, because this is showing all snow, it's always helpful for us to look at different levels of the atmosphere. So in order for, not to get too nerdy, but in order for there to be snow, the entire column of air has to be freezing or below. And normally I look at the mid-levels, and the mid-levels will tell me one temperature, and then the surface will tell me both. And if they're both freezing or below, then yeah, snow's likely. What I can tell you is that some of these areas, we're just going to be a little bit above freezing at the surface. So it could either be a really, really wet flake, or it'll just be cold rain. So I don't expect everyone to get what this model is outputting. But the snow does impact the higher elevations in the North Georgia mountains. Jason says he'll be watching guys all morning on my Roku app. Thank you and stay safe. Thank you so much, Jason. You do the same. And Steven says he has to travel for work. I'll keep you updated on my drive. Yeah, man, you just want to take it slow. And if you're driving, if you have to drive, because once again, I get it. Everybody doesn't. I don't have the luxury of staying home. So trust me, I get it. Our team's going to be driving here in the morning. Our chief meteorologist is going to be driving through that mess. Everybody doesn't get the luxury of just working from home. So I 1,000% get it. What I'm going to tell you is probably add some time to your drive. Maybe add an hour just to make sure you have time to get here without racing and endangering yourself and anyone else that may be in the car with you. Get here, grab a bite to eat, grab a cup of coffee or something like that. Just um, don't. I would not. I wouldn't leave at your normal drive time here for sure. Jerome asked about the black ice that will be on the road. Not really concerned with black ice with this system for a couple of reasons, maybe except at the higher elevations at the mountains, because our ground temperatures aren't going to get below freezing. So air temperature is one thing when it comes to forecasting weather events, but whenever we start to have the conversation about black ice, normally you'd want the ground to be cold. You want the ground to be near freezing. And because the ground is not going to be at freezing or below freezing long enough for most of us, black ice is not going to be the concern. Our concern tomorrow is going to be the potential to hydroplane, to be quite frank. Outside of that, the wind potential with all of this, and then, of course, that isolated tornado risk. But not really concerned about black ice with this event. So if that's your fear, you're golden here with that. The one exception would be at higher elevation. So if you live in some of the higher peaks in the North Georgia mountains, that would be potentially a concern. But even then, the surface temperatures aren't really staying below freezing long enough for the ground to get cold. You guys have been very energetic and there's lots of questions. I don't know if you were joining us at home on the Roku app or on Amazon or any of our streaming apps. But a lot of folks, they join us for these streams on YouTube, especially on weather nights, because we do these every night at 8. But if they have questions, this is a good way to get your questions answered. I know y'all yell at us and holler at us through the TV. And, when I see y'all in the gym or in the grocery store, y'all tell me how wrong you think most meteorologists are and all that good stuff. And I think it's humorous. My dad does the same thing to me. My entire family does, so I get it. I'm with it. I have a sense of humor. But this is a great way for you guys to interact with us and for us to answer your questions. At the end of the day, we can't talk all show in the newscast. We have to fit our weather story into that time. But with the streaming platforms, it gives us the ability to just talk to you as long as the conversation allows. And the more active you guys are, the more we get to chat and talk. Speaking of, good evening, Vanessa. Vanessa is a viewer that has been following me my whole career since I started in Memphis. And she's telling me that it's raining in Memphis, Tennessee. Good evening, Vanessa. Hopefully you're staying dry in my old city. Wish I was there so I could get a turkey leg off of Bill Street. Jerome said, what about the next storm? Is this going to be a line like this one? Right now, it's not really clear, not to get too nerdy on you, but whenever we are looking at systems that are further away, we're looking at lower resolution data, which means that the best way to put it is it's not going to be as fine. So the data, if the start and the initial data isn't as fine and it's using less grid points to forecast, you're not going to get as good of a representation of the environment. But in stuff that's happened in the next 48 hours, we're using higher resolution data. So there's more grid points in our forecast. So there's less holes in the atmosphere for us to fill in, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. But since this system is moving in on Friday, by Wednesday, we're going to have a pretty good idea of it, because 48 hours before Friday is Wednesday, we'll have finer data. We're going to have high resolution data. We can tell you the exact dimensions of it. Is it going to be straight up and down moving in? Is it going to be the southern part of the state? Is it going to be the northern? If you ever notice, the closer we get to an event, we can kind of we can tell you, okay, more specifics. There's going to be the potential for this. There's going to be the potential for that. It's just because of the quality of the data. You never actually understand how much computing power it takes to run all of the models that we have access to here in the First Alert Weather Center. It's going to be crazy. So thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. We've taken up a large chunk of your dinner. Like I said, we're going to have an update for you tonight at 10 o'clock on the Atlanta CW Peachtree TV. But also, we're going to have an update for you at 11 o'clock on Atlanta News First. Meteorologist Patrick Pete and I are working on it for you behind the scenes. I'm going to go and help him get this data together. Thank you, Alan, so much for keeping me informed. I am going to run down this list one more time just for all of the viewers that are just joining us right now. There are several school closings already in place. There are delays that are already on paper. Banks, county schools closed, and we'll talk about all the ones that are closed. We'll simplify this. Banks County closed, Habersham closed, Jasper closed, Lumpkin closed, Rabun County, closed. True County, closed. And then we have a lot of schools that are on a delay. Gordon County Schools, you're operating on a 2-hour delay. Same for folks that are in Heard County. Folks that are in Meriwether County, you're actually remote learning all day. So not canceled, but work from home. And then Union City is on a 2-hour delay. So that's all we have for you tonight, folks. I'm going to get you back to the 7-day forecast. I know it may have gotten lost in the conversation because there's a lot of focus on the first alert weather day that is in place for tomorrow. We'll get you through it. Let's get to the end of the stream. Let's go. I told you this is the cookie dough being made in the back of the scenes. Let me switch this real quick for you so you're not watching all of this. Oh, they call it the sausage is being made, or whatever the case may be. There is a first alert in place for Friday as more showers are moving in. The potential for thunderstorms is there. There is energy, and this is going to be an afternoon evening event. So the opposite of what we're tracking for tomorrow. There's some dry time Saturday. There's some clouds, but dry on Sunday. And then rain. It looks to be a rainy Monday, especially the second half of the day. So a first alert there. So big picture 7-day forecast is showing that there are 3 things you need to watch out for this week. First alert weather day tomorrow, first alert Friday, and a first alert for Monday. And I would highly suggest you guys tune in tomorrow morning with our morning team to get the update on where the heaviest rains are, to find out where there are accidents and where their slowdowns are, but then also check in tomorrow evening because we're really watching Friday closely. And if all of the data comes in tomorrow hot, we may have to first alert weather day Friday because it could be potentially more stormy than tomorrow. We'll have better idea on that tomorrow, but tune in tomorrow, whether it's at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, or 11. All of them hours, we're going to be breaking it down for you, and we're also going to be streaming at 8. So have a good night, and we will see you at 10.